Right. Matt Nagy, 95.7 The Game. Everybody knows about my passion for mental health and mental health awareness to everyone. Everyone's dealing with something one way or the other. My next guest is a guy that I talked to almost 1 year ago to the day, Brandon Saho. Brandon, great to have you back.
Thank you for having me. It's a lot has happened in the last year, but that was a great conversation. I always enjoy talking with you.
So let's just get the audience up to date here. I reached out to you about a year ago to the day. I had seen a video you put out. You lived in Cincinnati, you were on TV out there, and really had everything going for you. And you put this video out, like literally spilled everything out, and it like gives me the chills to talk about. But let's get the audience up to date. How did you get to this point, right now, and take us back to before I talked to you?
Yeah, it's been a wild ride the last 2 years. You mentioned I think we talked August 31st of last year, and so 2 years ago on that day was when I like announced what I was doing. And I had no idea really. I like you said, I was a sports reporter in Cincinnati and kind of got to live out that dream as a Cincinnati guy. If you're watching video, you can see the Bengals helmet behind me. So I got to live out that dream and be on the sideline and interview, guys like Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase as they're going to the Super Bowl and getting to do things I've always dreamed of as a kid. But then had always battled my own mental health struggles. And so finally got to a point where I hit rock bottom and had to check into a hospital for a couple of weeks because I was suicidal and really just didn't know how to live. But it was the best decision I ever made to check in somewhere and ask for help. And then naturally through therapy and self-reflection and just going back to work after I'd taken some time off, I realized that I kind of found this new purpose when it came to talking about mental health. So how do you combine the two? My therapist and I thought about the idea of a podcast. And so that's where the mental game was born. And it has been just the biggest blessing of my life the last 2 years. I never could have imagined this is what I'd be doing. I always thought I was going to be a sports reporter for 40 years and get to ESPN and be on Sports Center, but this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. And so it went from my brother designing a logo and me reaching out to a couple of Bengals players that I was friends with, or maybe, some NFL people I knew to try to get a couple of players on to now where since we spoke, I've been able to have some of the bigger names on the show, whether it's actor Terry Crews, rapper Kevin Gates, Kate Flannery from The Office, Chad Johnson. It has been just amazing. But it hasn't all been easy, and I'm sure we'll talk about that. But when we first chatted, I was 30 years old living in my mom's basement, just like every kid's dream, just trying to make ends meet. I don't even think I told you this, but I was Ubering to try to make money on the side. And so these people would like watch the show and then I'd be picking them up in an Uber. And it was like such a
Huh?
strange thing. Yeah, I hated it at first and was really embarrassed. And I would say it happened maybe like, I don't know, 1 out of 3 times or maybe a little bit more than that. But I was in my hometown of Cincinnati. So a lot of people had watched me report on the Bengals. And so it eventually became this cool thing where people would just start opening up to me more and they get to meet me and talk to me. And it just became this really cool therapeutic thing. But like, I really needed the money so that I could fly out to LA or fly to
Totally.
New York and do the interviews. Where now yeah, 3 months ago, I moved to LA. So we're here full time now. And it's been awesome so far. It's definitely different, but I absolutely love it. I hope that's a quick
No, it's great, great
bio, a good.
perspective. I want to get into the day, we talked, and then what you told me about what you were going to do. You were so passionate about it, and I'm so excited for you because you lived everything you wanted to do, you did. But I want to go back to something you said before we go into the podcast and what you're doing. You had everything going for you. What people out there, I don't think understand this show is not just for people that are suffering from, you know, different types of mental health. It's for people that don't understand it.
Yeah.
How can so they're going to ask the question, how can you have everything going for you and still not be happy?
Because from the outside, it looks like I had everything going for me. But on the inside, I didn't. And I really never did. And it's hard to explain, but I'd always felt this alone feeling since I was 14 years old, and that's when the first suicidal thought happened. I just, shoved it down and didn't tell anyone. And I was an alcoholic for my entire life. And so buried it in alcohol, which obviously makes it worse as an antidepressant or making it a depressant, like it
Yep.
makes it more depressed. Um, so I had the dream job that I wanted, but like the personal stuff on the inside, the self-love, the happiness, the searching for, you know, what was bugging me the whole time, being alone, trying to find that relationship, and then, having some family stuff go on and pressure on me at work. Like, yes, I had everything, but I also had a lot of things that people just didn't know. And so when I finally, hit that point where I was at rock bottom, I had 3 family members pass away in 3 months. I talk about the alone feeling. I finally thought I found that person. And then we were going through a really toxic breakup. And then all this pressure on me at work where it kind of just finally like blew up on me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's strange to look back because yeah, from the outside I would have everything, and that's but that the more you talk and realize, and hopefully people can learn from talking, with their friends and family, brother, sister, mom, dad, whoever, like we all have things inside that we're not sharing, but once we share it, we can get help with those things.
How do you, so a lot of times people don't want to share and don't want to talk about it. So let me ask you this. What would be your advice to someone trying to help somebody that says, I don't really want to talk about it? I think forcing someone to do something obviously never works, but what's the right approach in your mind to try to get somebody to open up, knowing that there's something wrong?
Relatability is the number one thing I think that helps people with mental health. So offering up some vulnerability yourself, saying, hey, I noticed you aren't yourself recently. I know you and so broke up, or you lost this job, or are frustrated with this. Like, look, I went through the same exact thing like 2 years ago, and I bought it all in, and then I realized, oh, that makes it 100 times worse. I just had to talk to somebody, whether it was my mom or going to therapy. Like, man, I care about you. Like, people subconsciously, even though they say they don't want to open up or they don't want people to ask about it, subconsciously, 99% of people will realize, oh, they do care about me and they are trying to help me. And so it might take a while to pull it out, like, pulling teeth, but eventually you'll start to get little by little. But at the end of the day, it comes down to the person in the mirror wanting to make that change, or the change is never going to happen. And it's a really sad truth. You can have all the amazing tools, resources, family, friends, therapy, check into a hospital like I did. But if you in the end don't want to make that change, then it's not going to happen. And I think back to one of my best friends overdosed in 2020, and we had tried a lot of different things with him and his family, whether it be rehab, therapy. And I love him to death, but it just got to a point where he didn't want to make that change anymore. And when you're, suffering from addiction or mental health struggles, if you don't get help, it's eventually going to hit that rock bottom point. And so that was really tough. And I tell that story because it's become more common, I think, than people realize. And one of the toughest parts of that is I look back on, I think his second to last tweet, or his last tweet before he passed, was like, I wish my boys checked up on me more.
Oh,
And it's
oh,
stuff like that, like really, really puts it in perspective. And I wish I did. But you can't blame yourself. That person in the mirror has to want to make that change.
I think it's a great point, and I think that when I talk to people about and they don't understand how people are doing what they're doing and they're not talking and they're doing things, whether it's alcohol, drugs, or whatever it might be, depression, sitting in the house doing nothing, whatever, that person, I finally realized through all my experiences through it, it really is true. You literally cannot, and you can't. I want to talk about people blaming themselves for
Yeah.
things happening. I had an issue 2 months ago. A friend of mine called me the day before. I said, I'm not answering the phone. I got a call the next day saying so and so has passed away. And I literally started bawling my eyes out.
Yep.
And it just like came out. Somebody walked in my office and I'm like, I'm sorry, give me a minute. And at first I blamed not didn't blame, but I just said, why didn't I just answer the phone? And then I started talking to people like, listen, you can blame yourself for that part. That's fine. This, you weren't going to stop this. So I want to talk about like how to convince people that they have to help themselves. You can't change that, and you can't blame yourself if something happens to someone you're close to.
Yeah, it's this weird spot where you can feel that sense of responsibility that you didn't do enough. And I think that's what, ultimately made me hold on, was the thought of my mom losing a child and that pain for her that I couldn't do to her. That's literally what like kept me from taking my own life for 3 months when I was at that rock bottom point. But it does just come down to that person understanding that they have to ask for help and do the work themselves. There's going to be help along the way,
Sure.
but like I think again, the relatability, using your own experience, your vulnerability, whether you've tried therapy or you realize that journaling helps you, or you started going to AA if you're struggling with addiction and realize that, oh, like the stigma around AA or sobriety or going to therapy or mental health isn't really what we thought it was this whole time. It actually helps you a lot. It's just getting those points across. And I think there's different techniques. And I, speak across the country now and talk with different college students and high school students and corporate people and just everyone that I can possibly, help if I can. And so they ask for like strategies, techniques, kind of to the question you're asking. And so one thing that I give, the younger audiences that are, middle, high school, college is, mom or dad might not understand or want to understand or have that, suck it up mentality that we had for so long. Well, guess what? Maybe there's a middleman that can help you. Maybe is there a cousin that you're really close to or an aunt that you spend a ton of time with? If you've gone up to mom or dad and they giving you that response and aren't wanting to help, it really does change someone's perspective if the aunt or the cousin or the best friend comes to them and says, hey, like he's really struggling or she's really struggling. They need your help.
Yeah. Yeah.
They've told me all this and you can do it with them, without them. And like I tell kids all the time, like if you go behind your best friend's back because you're worried that they're struggling with mental health or might hurt themselves, if they're going to be mad at you for a week, 2 weeks, a month, so be it. But you would rather them be mad at you and have to have that uncomfortable conversation than them not be here to have the uncomfortable
It's
conversation.
so difficult for them. It's so cool you're talking. We'll get into that, your appearances at high schools, because those are the kids that, in my opinion, need it the
Yeah,
most. And it's that's the first thing they say is, oh, if I say something, he's never going to talk to me or she's never going to talk to me again. And it's so hard for them to realize, like, no, you they might not, but you're saving their lives, you know?
right.
Um, so a year ago we talked, you're in your mom's basement in Cincinnati. You tell me I am doing this. I am going to LA at some point. And I was like, you know what? This is freaking awesome. But I told you before we got on here, 99.9% of the people don't follow through for a lot of different reasons. You follow through, your set looks awesome. The Mental Game podcast, you're in LA. Talk to me about the podcast, the people that you've had on, and what it means to you.
It means everything. My dream as a kid was to host the Tonight Show, and that's super unrealistic, some people think, but I'm a guy that hopefully this doesn't come across the wrong way. Like everything that I've ever wanted to do, I've worked my ass off to go towards it. And a lot of it I've got to because I just put in the work and they're passionate projects or purposes that I feel. And so I'm not hosting the Tonight Show, but I feel like I'm doing it in my own way with my own purpose with mental health. I mean, probably 10 of the guests that I've had on out of the 55 episodes have been guests on the Tonight Show. So for me, that's been really cool. And the move to LA, I drove from Cincinnati in my Jeep Cherokee, packed everything up I possibly could, including the whole set behind me, and drove for a week out here. And I had no idea what to expect, but the goal was just to have that access where, if somebody cancels or if somebody sees the show and wants to come on spur the moment, we can do that because, I'm like, I was at the Hollywood sign yesterday shooting some stuff. It's literally 8 to 10 minutes from my front door. Like
Incredible.
that changes the ball game to be able to have access to certain people in Hollywood or when the ESPYs are in town in the summer or, the Emmys that's coming. I think that's coming up in a couple weeks. So it has been really, really cool. I'm starting to get used to it now, which is fun for me because it's been about 3 months. So now it's just, I'm feeling it. Like I'm good. Like I'm getting in my routine where I'm going on the road and doing certain, live events, but we're shooting a bunch of stuff here. And it does feel like kind of that dream come true moment happening all at once. But it's not like I'm rich or have this giant house in LA. Like I still am hurting financially and trying to like, you know, claw my way to survive. I'm at a point now where I'm not worried every day like I was probably a year ago when we were talking when
Yep,
I'm living in
yep.
my mom's basement, but I'm still like nothing's guaranteed. But this is such a passionate thing for me that if I gotta drive Uber again out here in LA to make things work, I'll hate it, but I'll do it. And I fit in great driving here. I'm pretty aggressive, so I'll be
um,
okay.
my second cousin lives in San Francisco. 6 months into me moving here from Philadelphia, she called me up and said, "Any second thoughts?" And I said, "I don't think you know me real well. I never look back." And it's one of the best
That's
pieces of
that's an
advice I
awesome
can say.
quality to have.
It's just like by the way, you can have, you're gonna have second thoughts with anything you do. Like if you don't, there's no way everything's gonna go perfect. But if you, everything that happens, bad, and you say, "Oh, I shouldn't have come here," like, what are you doing? No, like, made the choice. Let's freaking go. And so I would say the same thing to you. And I sounds like you've done that. I want to talk to you about the pod, the difference between the pod and making the appearances.
Yeah.
You're speaking at high schools. You're speaking at events. What's, I don't want to say what gets you going more, but because they're very different. But just talk about the difference between them and kind of what you're trying to accomplish, on each one of them.
It's an easy answer for me. The speaking engagements and live events is my number one favorite thing that I will ever do. And look, it's amazing to sit down with some of the A-listers or NFL players and musicians I've got to, and that's going to continue. And I hope the guests are going to get bigger. And that's what gives us the platform to be able to do more and speak at more places. But the in-person events are my favorite thing, because every single time that I've ever spoke, and I've done this over 100 times now, probably in the last year and a half, where at least one person, usually it's more, come up to me afterwards and say, "Hey, I've never told anyone this. I'm suicidal. I don't know what to do, don't know where to go." And my manager, EJ, does a really good job at making sure that we have either the school or college or work, HR, mental health professionals, or we bring in a nonprofit at every event because I can't be there tomorrow, but
Right, right.
I can have that 5 minute conversation that you're having now, with me. And so that's the most powerful thing for me. I had this stupid idea in November to go to, I was like, "Oh, could you drive to 30 states in 30 days?" And I'm like, I don't know, I guess you could. I mapped it out and then just put out dates on Instagram and hope that maybe people would invite me to their schools or work or recovery centers to speak. And we got about half of them off social media and the other half we had to book on our own. But it ended up working out where we made it to all 30 states in 30 days, going from starting in Kentucky, going all the way up to Maine and New York, down to Florida, over to Texas, Kansas. I mean, it was incredible. The coolest thing I've ever done. My favorite stop on that would probably be at LSU because I used to be a sports reporter covering LSU sports. And so they donated the arena to us. I was able to, I reached out to Joe Burrow's parents to come down and they came down and there were some former NFL players from LSU, women's gymnasts, like, we had the team psychiatrist for LSU athletics there. And we
Incredible.
had thousands of people in the arena on a Monday or Tuesday night. And, we were able to partner with, a family that had lost their high school son to suicide and be able to raise awareness for his classmates and teammates and all the kids their age in Louisiana. But just doing that every day, I mean, I did 45 or 46 presentations in 30 days and it
Wow.
it was awesome. That's my favorite thing, hands
It's
down,
so
because you just see it in person.
it makes so much sense because you can affect so many different people in one. Obviously, people are watching your interview with somebody, but when you see the in person, when you see those people, I'm sure some of them are crying, some of them. But and I always say this: I'm not looking to change everybody. If I
Yeah.
can help one person, and I truly believe that one person, I feel great,
Yep.
And I think it's this probably the same there. It's like that one person came up to you and said that you're like, all right, whatever I'm doing, is right, right?
Oh yeah, it totally makes it, the Ubering, the staying in my mom's basement, the being broke and doing a passion project. It makes it all worth it. And it's been the stories that I hear. I tell people all the time, I wish I could wear a GoPro so people could understand the amount of conversations I have, hearing what children go through, what, husband, wives, brothers, sisters, people go through, whether it's sexual assault, abuse, addiction, suicide attempts. I mean, most of the times it's more than one person. And sometimes I'm sitting there for, unless we have, like, I remember on the tour we went, New York was the day after Rhode Island, and it was a big event at this great nonprofit called Fountain House, which helps so many people in New York City. And they're actually going to open one out in LA here soon. But I had it with, one of my good friends is Mac Miller's old DJ. So we are doing an event together. It's going to be great. And this Rhode Island event, I think there was like 100 people waiting to talk to me afterwards. And so we ended up being there like 2.5 hours later.
Wow.
And it's like those conversations again make it all worth it, because I'll have kids or adults show me pictures or hold out their wrists or give me a coin from their, from AA and sobriety. I would obviously never share any of the stuff that I talk
Sure,
about, but
sure.
like having those conversations, number one, best thing that I get to experience every day.
I want to end it with social media. I am in radio. Obviously, Twitter and social media are so important. As my radio station, 95.7 The Game in San Francisco, we're the number one social media platform in our entire company of 250 radio stations. That's not me. That's my,
Yeah, it's you.
my
Come on now.
no, that's my department. But the reason I'm telling you is because, unfortunately, full disclosure, I would never be on any of it if I didn't feel like I really had to for my job, and I'm not afraid to say that.
Yeah.
I feel, and I want to get your thoughts on how divisive and how it's changed everything in the way everyone approaches things.
It's a two-way street. I agree with you. I think early on I would have felt the same way, and then I realized how it could be a tool for my career. And now this avenue, I wouldn't have the show and the platform that I do without it. But it's a balancing act. I mean, my darkest moment of my life, or the first time I thought about suicide, happened, and it was before social media. I guess MySpace was a thing in 2007, but it was because kids were sending stuff to each other, and just via text. We had just got phones my freshman year of high school, and so now I can't even imagine what kids go through with TikTok and Snapchat. It's crazy. And I work with some amazing mental health professionals and doctors and prevention advocates and foundations. And one of the biggest causes to suicide is it's an impulsive decision because of something that happens on social media. And within 2 or 3 hours, that teenager takes their own life because they think it's the end of the world. And so my message with that is that nothing's the end of the world. It can be tough, but we can get through this. Feelings are temporary. But I think it's a two-way street with social media. It's seeing the positive and the negative and knowing, hey, this isn't good for me. I probably shouldn't pay attention to it. The negative comments, like I used to get way more as a sports reporter talking about, hey, you don't know what the hell you're talking about, or this and that, or they're going to win, they're going to lose. But now, it's stuff about appearance or what I say or what I'm doing or what a guest says. It's like, you can't listen. Who cares what people say on the internet? The social media bullying is a real thing, especially for the younger generations than us. And so it's having that balance of finding, good stuff, positive stuff like what we're doing, or finding your favorite sports team or musician or actor and watching, kind of their behind the scenes life that's encouraging. But yeah, it's not a direct answer. I tell everyone it's a balancing act, and you just have to figure out, if you're a kid with your parents or with your friends, what's best for you. And if you're a parent, you got to know what the hell is going on. You
Yeah.
can't sit back anymore and just hope that everything's okay, because your kids are on their phone way more than they're talking to anyone in person. I mean, I remember, and I'm sure you do, calling on the home phone to your buddy and then get on a bike. And I wouldn't talk to my parents for like 2 days because I'd be at their house and there was no
Totally.
worry in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's changed completely.
I will say that I say to my kids when they say, well, Johnny's got this. I literally say, I do not care. I do not care.
Yeah.
This is the way we're going to do it. And everybody has their own ways of doing it. My kids are on their phones and the whole bit, but it's the age old lines of just anything you put in text or pictures and send it out. Just imagine it going to every single person in the world. And if you're not okay with that, then don't send. And you can say all those things you want, but
Yep.
I don't mean to be, I think it's just really shown me how I feel bad for some of the people that are attacking people. It's like those are the
Yeah.
people that I think need the help more than the other people. Um, the Mental Game podcast, cannot wait to see what's next for you. Um, Tell me about one of the, you said Terry Crews. Tell me about how what that was like. His story is incredible.
Yeah, it happened very organically. And I had Nate Burleson on, who played in the NFL, host CBS Mornings, great guy. And we were talking about black men's mental health, and it was on Instagram. And I'm sitting on my couch in my mom's basement, and all of a sudden I see Terry Crews comments on your video, and I'm like, whoa, is this
Wow.
real? And so I go look, and it really is him, just saying like a bunch of fire emojis, keep going, love this stuff. And so now that I've kind of worked out here a little bit, at that time, I was able to network and put an actor friend and a publicist friend in a group chat and say, hey, you guys know Terry, how do I get to him? And within like a month, he invited me out here to his place and gave me an hour of his time. And we sat down and talked about everything. And it was absolutely incredible. Just one of those moments that definitely kind of validated everything that I was doing, because here you have this A-list celebrity that believes in what I'm doing, can do anything he wants in the world, has all the money he could ever need, but he struggled with some of the same stuff as you. So he wants to come on the show and talk about it. And I think it was the first time publicly that he had mentioned and opened up about his own suicidal thoughts that happened at the peak of his career. And so that meant a lot for me. And after the conversation, we're hanging out a little bit, and I just tell him like, hey man, thanks for opening up. It means a lot to me, and also like just it's gonna help open some doors for me. And he stopped me. He's like something along the lines of, yeah, I know. That's like I wanted to do it because of all the other reasons, but because of that too, I wanted to be able to help. And I'm like, man, this dude is awesome. He's
Cool.
exactly what you
Yep.
see in the movies, on TV. He is amazing. And so I loved that experience. And I'm working on a bunch of different people right now. The summer's kind of a slow time as people are on vacation and stuff like that. But man, I'm emailing and calling a ton of people. So hopefully when we talk again, hopefully not a year from now, I'll
Yep.
be able to fill you in on some of those others.
So excited for you. Congratulations on the success. You said it before. Reality is this: there's going to be bumps in the road. It's how you handle them. I hope we
Yep.
helped people in this conversation. I'm sure we did. That's what this is all about. You know what? If you have issues, if there's something happening that you just can't control, just talk to somebody. Just reach out for help, and that's all we're saying, right?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. The two things that I tell people with mental health: number one, you have to do something. If you're feeling a certain way, talk to somebody, whether it's mom, dad, trusted adult, coworker. You just have to get it out. You can't bottle it up. And number two, feelings are temporary. That's the thing that has helped me the most. And I never would have believed it, but I don't even recognize the person that I used to be, because those feelings are temporary. And I was able to, you know, not take control, but want to make that change and then see that hard work pay off. And I'll say this too, as we're ending, the mental.game. If you go there, you can see wherever I'm speaking across the country. And if you want me to come to your work, your school, we should figure out something for me to swing by the station, come up to San Fran. I would love to
Love it.
collaborate on something like that. We're going to talk about that honestly after this. I'm not just plugging it on the show, but yeah, that's my favorite thing that I do. And what we do is, I kind of tell my story, share clips from the podcast, and then really just make it a safe space, kind of a mental health town hall. And I've done it from 20 people to 3,000 people at a time. It's my favorite thing that I do, because people really feel open to be vulnerable, and we're able to help give people practical things that they can do in their everyday life or help somebody else with.
I think that everyone is put on earth for a reason. I'm a believer in that. I
Yeah.
thought mine was to be in sports talk radio and be a broadcaster, and I'm the luckiest guy in the world. But what I found more that gets me going even more is trying to change lives. There's
Yep.
nothing more powerful than changing someone's life and saving someone's life. I don't think I've done that. You have.
You have done that.
Congratulations.
You have a platform and a show where you talk about it all the time and you have your invulnerability. I appreciate the modesty, but you've done it too. Like you said, even if it's just one, like I get some DMs, I'm sure you get some emails. You might see a few of them, but there's countless people that just saw a post while they were scrolling, never reached out, but stopped them from doing something or helped them make that change. So
Yeah.
give yourself that credit too.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, man. So excited for you, like I said, and we'll be in touch. Congrats and keep it going.
Thank you so much. This was awesome. Appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Sorry, I went.